He walked into the courtroom wearing a country club polo and khaki pants, carrying himself with the easy confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences. When Judge Caprio asked him about the DUI arrest, he chuckled and said, "Your Honor, I only had a few drinks at the club. I was fine to drive. The officer was just looking to fill a quota." But what this retired bank executive didn't know was that his third DUI arrest would expose decades of enabling by his wealthy family, a trail of victims he'd left behind, and a drinking problem that had already cost one young woman her ability to walk. And when the judge discovered the full truth, that casual smile would vanish forever. Before we show you exactly what happened when privilege met accountability, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. If you love Judge Caprio's unwavering commitment to justice and protecting innocent lives, please support our new channel, Order in Court Stories, by hitting that subscribe button and giving us a like. We're just getting started, and every subscription helps us continue bringing you these powerful moments where the law protects those who can't protect themselves. Your support means everything as we build this community together. Providence Municipal Court. Friday morning, October 18th, 11:15 a.m. The autumn sun filtered through courthouse windows, casting golden light across worn wooden benches. Judge Frank Caprio had been working through the morning docket with his characteristic patience when the bailiff called a case that made several court officers exchange knowing glances. "Whitmore, Gerald, DUI arrest, third offense, case number 2025-19847. The doors opened, and in walked Gerald Whitmore, 63 years old, looking every inch the successful retiree, tanned from golf, hair silver but full, expertly styled, Lacoste polo in pastel yellow, expensive loafers, no socks, a Rolex that probably cost more than a used Honda. Everything about him communicated comfort, success, and the absolute certainty that everything would work out fine because it always had. Behind him walked his attorney, Christopher Ashford, from Bradley and Associates, one of the most expensive defense firms in Rhode Island. Christopher carried a briefcase that probably cost $3,000 and wore the weary expression of someone who defended Gerald before. Gerald approached the podium with the casual stride of someone heading to a tea time, not a criminal proceeding. He smiled at the judge, the kind of friendly smile men of his generation and class used to signal that they're all on the same team here. Judge Caprio looked up from his paperwork. His expression was neutral, but something in his eyes suggested he'd already read this case thoroughly and wasn't pleased with what he'd found. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore. Please state your full name for the record." "Gerald Hampton Whitmore, Your Honor. Jerry to my friends." The addition was accompanied by another smile, an invitation to casual familiarity. "Mr. Whitmore, you're here regarding your third DUI arrest. On September 29th, you were stopped at a DUI checkpoint on Hope Street at 10:47 p.m. The arresting officer noted signs of impairment and administered a breathalyzer test. Is this accurate?" Gerald waved his hand dismissively. "Your Honor, I think impairment is a strong word. I'd had a couple of drinks at the club with some friends. We were celebrating a golf tournament win. I felt perfectly fine to drive." His attorney, Christopher, touched his arm gently. "Jerry, let me handle..." "I've got this, Chris. The judge and I can have a civilized conversation." Gerald turned back to Judge Caprio with that same easy smile. "Your Honor, I've been driving for 45 years without a serious accident. I know my limits. That night, I was nowhere near my limit." Judge Caprio's expression remained neutral. "Mr. Whitmore, the breathalyzer registered 0.16. That's twice the legal limit of 0.08. Would you like to dispute that measurement?" "I don't dispute the number, Your Honor. I dispute its relevance. Those limits are set ridiculously low. Most experienced drinkers can handle much more than 0.08 without any impairment. It's about tolerance, not arbitrary numbers. The courtroom stirred. A woman in the gallery whispered to her companion. An elderly man shook his head slowly. Judge Caprio leaned back slightly in his chair. Mr. Whitmore, the legal limit isn't arbitrary. It's based on scientific research about impairment, reaction time, and accident risk. At 0.16, your ability to operate a vehicle safely is significantly compromised. Gerald chuckled, the kind of indulgent laugh that suggests he knows better. Your Honor, with respect, I've probably had a few drinks and driven home thousands of times over the years. Never hurt anyone. Never caused an accident. The research doesn't account for individual variation. Christopher put his head in his hands. This was clearly not the strategy they'd discussed. Judge Caprio picked up another document. Mr. Whitmore, you mentioned this is something you've done thousands of times. Are you saying you regularly drive after drinking? I'm saying I'm a social drinker, Your Honor. Golf club, dinner parties, charity events. That's just part of the lifestyle. Everyone in my circle does it. We're not college kids getting blackout drunk. We're responsible adults who happen to enjoy a cocktail with dinner. And then drive home. And then drive home safely. Like I said, never hurt anyone. Judge Caprio's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath now. Mr. Whitmore, this is your third DUI arrest. Your first was in 2012. Your second was in 2018. Both times you were driving with a blood alcohol level above 0.15. Both times you received minimal penalties, and both times you promised you'd learned your lesson. What happened? Gerald's confident smile faltered slightly. Those were unfortunate incidents, Your Honor. Bad timing. In 2012, I'd been at my daughter's wedding. In 2018, it was my retirement party. Special occasions, not regular behavior. But you just told me you drive after drinking regularly. Which is it? Special occasions or regular behavior? Silence. Mr. Whitmore, which is it? I mean, social drinking is regular. Driving afterward is just practical. You can't leave your car at the club or a restaurant every time you have a glass of wine with dinner. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Mr. Whitmore, I'm going to read you something. This is from the police report of your first arrest in 2012. The arresting officer noted that you were belligerent, refused to cooperate, and stated, and I quote, "Do you know who I am? I was a senior vice president at Providence National Bank. I pay your salary. This is harassment." Gerald's face flushed. I may have been upset. No one likes being pulled over. The report from your second arrest in 2018 indicates similar behavior. You refused the field sobriety test initially. You threatened to call the mayor. You told the officer that DUI laws are class warfare against successful people. Does any of this sound familiar? I was having a bad night. People say things they don't mean when they're stressed. Mr. Whitmore, I'm looking at your case file, and there's something concerning here. After your second arrest in 2018, you were supposed to complete a substance abuse evaluation and attend classes. Did you complete those requirements? Christopher stood up quickly. Your Honor, my client completed the evaluation. I asked about the classes, Counselor. Did he attend the required classes? Silence. Mr. Whitmore, did you attend the court-ordered classes? Gerald's voice was quieter now. I attended a few. But, Your Honor, those classes are designed for alcoholics, people with real problems. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a social drinker who made a couple of mistakes. Sitting in a room with people who've lost everything to drinking felt ridiculous. So you decided the court order didn't apply to you? I decided it wasn't relevant to my situation. Judge Caprio picked up his phone. Bailiff Rodriguez, please pull the complete records from Mr. Whitmore's previous DUI cases. I want to see the sentencing details and compliance reports. 20 minutes passed. The courtroom remained full. Gerald stood at the podium, his confident posture beginning to sag. Christopher reviewed documents, whispering urgently to his client. Judge Caprio read through other cases, his expression growing darker. Bailiff Rodriguez returned with thick folders. Judge Caprio began reading, and the temperature in the courtroom seemed to drop. Mr. Whitmore, according to these records, you were supposed to attend 20 hours of substance abuse education classes after your 2018 arrest. You attended 4 hours. You were supposed to install an ignition interlock device in your vehicle for 1 year. You had it removed after 3 months by claiming the car was being sold. Then you simply bought a new car and registered it in your wife's name to avoid the requirement. Gerald's face had gone from tanned to pale. Your Honor, those requirements were overly burdensome. The interlock device was embarrassing. Every time someone rode in my car, I had to explain it. It affected my dignity. Your dignity? Mr. Whitmore, the interlock device was designed to protect other people from your drunk driving. But you found it embarrassing, so you circumvented it. I was doing better. I didn't need it anymore. You're here for your 3rd DUI arrest. Clearly, you did need it. Judge Caprio continued reading. There's something else here. In 2019, you were involved in an accident. Hit and run. You left the scene. Is this accurate? Christopher jumped up. Your Honor, those charges were dropped. The evidence was insufficient. I'm not asking about charges, Counselor. I'm asking if it happened. Mr. Whitmore, were you involved in a hit-and-run accident in March 2019? Gerald looked at his attorney, then at the floor. There was an incident, but I didn't realize I'd hit anything. It was dark. I thought I'd hit a mailbox. You hit a 23-year-old woman on a bicycle. Her name is Rebecca Torres. She spent 6 weeks in the hospital. She has permanent nerve damage in her left leg. She can no longer walk without a cane. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, angry mutters. Someone in the gallery stood up. The bailiff had to call for order. Gerald looked like he might be sick. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know I'd hit a person. It was dark. I'd had a few drinks. When I got home and saw the damage to my car, I was confused. The next day, my attorney advised me not to come forward because there was no way to prove I was the driver. Judge Caprio's voice was ice now. So you knew you'd hit something significant enough to damage your car. You suspected you might have been impaired. And you chose to hide rather than take responsibility. My attorney said, your attorney gave you legal advice. You made a moral choice. You chose to protect yourself instead of finding out if someone was hurt. The judge opened another file. Mr. Whitmore, I have Rebecca Torres's victim impact statement here. She's in the gallery today. Would you like to hear what she has to say? A young woman stood from the 3rd row. She was 27 years old now, using a cane, wearing professional clothes. She walked slowly to the witness stand, each step clearly painful. Gerald couldn't look at her. Rebecca's voice was steady but emotional. Your Honor, 4 years ago I was riding my bike home from my night shift as an ER nurse. I just finished a 12-hour shift saving lives. A car hit me from behind, threw me 15 feet. I woke up in my own ER with my legs shattered, my pelvis fractured, nerve damage that will never heal. She turned to Gerald. The driver never stopped, never called for help, never checked if I was alive. I lay in the street for 20 minutes until someone found me. The doctors said if I'd gotten help sooner, the nerve damage might have been prevented. But whoever hit me just drove away. Tears were streaming down her face now. I can't work as a nurse anymore. I can't stand for long periods. I walk with a cane at 27. I'm in constant pain. And for 4 years, I've wondered who did this to me. Who was so cowardly that they left me bleeding in the street? She looked directly at Gerald. Now I know. It was a man who'd had a few drinks. A man who hit me and thought he'd hit a mailbox. A man who went home and chose not to come forward. A man who cares more about his dignity than my life. The courtroom was absolutely silent, except for Rebecca's quiet crying. Gerald had tears running down his face, but whether they were remorse or self-pity was impossible to tell. Judge Caprio spoke softly. "Thank you, Miss Torres. Please be seated." He turned to Gerald. "Mr. Whitmore, I want you to understand something. You came into this courtroom thinking this was about a DUI. Just another inconvenient legal matter that money and a good lawyer could handle. But this isn't about one drunk driving arrest. This is about 30 years of believing you're above the law. Your Honor, I never meant to hurt anyone. But you did hurt someone. You destroyed a young woman's career, her mobility, her future. And when you suspected you might have done something serious, you hid. You let your expensive attorney protect you while Rebecca suffered." Gerald's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I could take it back." "You can't take it back. Miss Torres will walk with a cane for the rest of her life because you were too drunk to notice you hit a human being and too selfish to come forward when you realized something was wrong." Judge Caprio picked up his gavel. "Here's what's going to happen. Your DUI fine is $5,000. Your license is suspended for 5 years. That's the maximum I can impose for a third offense." Gerald gasped. 5 years? Your Honor, I'm 63 years old. 5 years is what the law allows. You're also sentenced to 1 year in the county jail, with the possibility of work release after 6 months if you complete an intensive substance abuse treatment program. Jail? Your Honor, I'm not a criminal. I'm a retired bank executive. I have grandchildren. I have a reputation. Your reputation is that of a 3-time drunk driver who hit a woman and fled. That's the reputation you've earned." Judge Caprio continued. "Additionally, I'm referring this case back to the prosecutor's office with a recommendation that they reopen the hit-and-run investigation. New evidence has come to light, specifically your admission in this courtroom today. I cannot guarantee charges will be filed, but the prosecutor should have that option." Christopher stood up, his voice urgent. "Your Honor, my client spoke under emotional distress. That admission may not be admissible. Then the prosecutor will make that determination. But Ms. Torres deserves to know the truth." The judge looked at Gerald. "Mr. Whitmore, you spent your entire life believing your money and status protected you, that the rules applied to other people, that you could drink and drive with impunity because you were special. But you're not special. You're a drunk driver, a hit-and-run perpetrator, a man who valued his convenience over other people's lives." Gerald was sobbing now. "Please, Your Honor, I'll do anything. I'll go to treatment. I'll never drink again. Please don't send me to jail." "You said you'd go to treatment after your second arrest. You attended 4 out of 20 classes. Why should I believe you now?" "Because I understand now. I see what I've done. I see the pain I've caused." Judge Caprio's voice softened slightly, but remained firm. "Mr. Whitmore, I hope you do understand. I hope you use your year in jail to get sober, to face what you've done, to become someone better. But whether you change or not, society needs to be protected from you. 5 years without a license, 1 year in jail. And if you're caught driving during your suspension, you'll face the maximum penalty. The gavel fell with a sharp crack. Gerald stood frozen, his world collapsing. The easy confidence was gone, replaced by the reality of consequences he'd avoided for decades. As bailiffs approached to take him into custody, Rebecca Torres stood. She walked slowly toward Gerald. He looked up at her, terrified. She spoke quietly. "I forgive you. Not for you. For me. So I can move forward without carrying hatred. But forgiveness doesn't mean what you did was okay. It means I'm choosing not to let you poison the rest of my life." Gerald could only nod, unable to speak. 6 months later, Gerald Whitmore completed his substance abuse program in jail. He emerged sober for the first time in 40 years. He sold his country club membership. He started attending AA meetings 5 times a week. He wrote Rebecca a letter every month, apologizing, updating her on his recovery, never asking for forgiveness because he knew he didn't deserve it. 3 years into his 5-year license suspension, Gerald became a volunteer speaker for MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He spoke at high schools, telling his story, showing what entitled drunk driving looks like in an expensive polo and khakis. He raised money for victims' funds. Rebecca Torres returned to healthcare as a case manager, work she could do sitting down. She advocated for stronger hit-and-run penalties. She and Gerald never became friends, but they eventually became allies in preventing others from making his mistakes. Judge Caprio kept Rebecca's victim impact statement in his desk, a reminder that behind every DUI statistic is a human being, that privilege doesn't protect you from consequences forever, that justice delayed is better than justice denied. If you love Judge Caprio's commitment to protecting innocent victims and holding dangerous behavior accountable, please support Order in Court Stories by subscribing and hitting that like button. Your support helps us share these critical stories where justice protects those who cannot protect themselves. What do you think? Should third-time DUI offenders face mandatory jail time? Should hit-and-run accidents be prosecuted more aggressively even years later? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story reminded you why we must take drunk driving seriously, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.